Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today on Coding Out Loud. We got a couple of kind of smaller things on the docket today. We're not going to go super deep into internals or anything, reviewing functions, whatever. It's basically just a bug fixing day. I think those are just as important, and so I wanted to get some of the stuff taken care of. So number one, on Thok, Rapid noticed that when we're saving the URLs for the images, like the photos of the product after we scrape them and download them, it's not saving the right URI. And so we need to dig into why that's happening, because it was working for a while and I don't think I changed anything, and now it's not. So we'll have to dig into that. We'll also just make sure that all of our tests are still passing, since it's been probably about a week since I've dug into the code. And then also on Stub Squad, we noticed that we're getting a bunch of like spam users. So like people who are registering that never actually do anything, which is fine. Like it's not like it takes a ton of processing power, but I just want to basically build a way for us to prune those spam users. And so we'll basically define a spam user as like someone who has gone 30 days with, like, since they registered but have not verified their email, for example. So that will be our kind of our test to say like this person is probably not a real user. If they've gone 30 days without verifying their email, they can't do anything until they do that anyways. So if they haven't done that, we'll just assume that they're spam. So as far as the why, I mean, obviously, number one, bugs are bad. We want to solve those. And I mean, we can't see any pictures on the site right now, or we can see some, but not all, and that's whatever. So we want to fix that up so that when we're pushing those images into S3, that, you know, they're actually visible to the outside world. And then obviously, like if spammers sign up for the accounts and never verify their email, we can just nuke those accounts, right? So what are we going to do? So number one, we're just going to run a spider. We're going to look at what image URI is being saved, and then we're going to fix that URI. Now, this could be a bad AWS environment variable setting in Laravel, so we can poke around with that, and then just fix any other bugs that we come across. For Stub Squad, we're going to create a Blade full page component that shows all the users. We're going to display like the registration date and their email verification status. And then we'll basically have a button that will allow us to like delete users one at a time if we need to. But then we'll also create a command that will prune those old users. I've seen things online, people talking about pruning, but I don't know if this is like a custom thing that they've built or if there's a built-in Laravel way to do this. So if it is, great, we'll use that. If not, we'll kind of implement it ourselves. And then we'll basically define an old user as a registration date being more than 30 days ago, and they don't have a verified email. And then once that's all done, we'll basically schedule that command to run once a day, so that every day it just looks at the last 30 days, any accounts that are older than 30 days, and just prune those ones. So I think we've got a bit of got our work cut out for us here. So what we'll do is we're gonna refresh, or we're gonna get a fresh database going here on our terminal, and so we're going to say art migrate fresh, just start from scratch here because this is just our local. We're gonna add Divinity as our source here, and then we will go art q work to actually start processing. So if we look in the database, it'll take a few minutes for it to process. First, it's going to get all the product data, and then it's going to go fetch the images. So if we refresh this, yeah, the photos table right now is empty. We'll just give it a second to finish working through these the products, and then we'll take a look at the photos. So it's doing all the product data. Okay, so this is the searchable stuff for Scout, and then okay, so do we have some photos here? Okay, so we have one. I don't know why there's only one photo, but it's still, obviously, that's incorrect. So it's prepending the s3.amazonaws.com. So if we go to this URL, first, let's just take a look and see if this even works by itself. Okay, so the image itself is there, but it's not, the URL is not great. Like, we want it to just be the staging images.thok.gg. So what we will do is let us hop into the code, and we will go into the fetch image from source, hide that, and let's take a look here. So the stored image should be getting the URL. So if we, let's go like this. Let's dump out the stored image. So what this should be is the, this should be the URL to that image that's being downloaded. So if we close out of the worker, if we refresh the database, and of course there's not going to be anything there because we got to add Divinity first. In fact, I'm probably going to change that to vortex gear just because it's quicker. Okay, so I'm betting we're running up against the rate limiter at Divinity. I bet you if we go to this, it's going to be like, you can't access this site. Oh, okay, no. So that was just a very quick queue running. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look here. Yeah, that is running a ton of jobs. So I think we've got some, definitely something going on there that shouldn't be happening, because it should not be running nearly that many jobs for something simple like this. Okay, so it's getting the wrong URI right from the source, so that is likely going to be an issue with our environment variable. However, I'm just going to hide the screen for a second because I'm going to open the environment variable file and just make sure that there's no keys showing before I show that on screen. So just give me 1 second here. Let's go .env. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to close that. Okay, and I'm going to flip back to the screen now. Okay, so all I did was, if we go into our file systems here, so this use path style endpoint is set to true. Was set to true in our .env file. What we're going to do, I switched it to false, so I just want to see if that's the right setting. If that's not, then we'll do some digging and figure out where this is. But we can just close out of here. Let's refresh our database. Let's clear the config cache. And now let's add vortex gear because there's a lot less of their stuff, so it takes a lot less time to spider. Okay, and let's go artq work, and let's take a look at the URLs that pop up here this time. Yeah, so the way it works is, as the site spiders these products, it adds more jobs onto the queue to fetch the images. Okay, so I did see an S3 run by there, so that's obviously not the setting we're looking for yet. So it's still putting it in S3 Amazon AWS.com. All right, so then that is not the setting that we want. So what I'm going to do is hide this again, just for a second, just so I can switch that back. We're going to go. Okay, so let's close that file, go back to the desktop. Okay, so let's see. The driver's S3, the URL is AWS URL. So this is the, like if you're using an S3 compatible S3, like an S3 compatible storage driver. So like if you're using, for example, like Backblaze's B2, I think they call it, or Cloudflare's R2, I think they called it, or something. So basically, like if it's S3 compatible, you'd change your AWS URL and AWS endpoint, I believe. But let's go take a look at Laravel file storage. Okay, so S3 compatible. Okay, yeah. So the AWS endpoint is if you're using like an S3 compatible one, like MinIO, DigitalOcean Spaces, Cloudflare R2, Backblaze B2, that kind of stuff. And And then also for things like min.io, you need to specify the whole AWS URL. So, so nothing on here seems to be obviously wrong. Let's take a look at, so fetch image from source. So disk S3 URL, this file name. S3, put this file name image. So I'm curious, why is it getting the wrong URI then? Stored image, storage disk URL, this file name. Okay, so let's take a look at getting a disk instance. Okay, so on-demand disk, we don't care about that. So get temporary URLs, don't care about that. File metadata. Automatic streaming, don't care about that. Specifying a disk, that's kind of interesting, but not exactly what we want. Deleting files, directories, testing. No, don't want any of that. Okay, so let's take a look at this. If storage is missing, then put this file name with the contents of the image. Yeah. The stored image should just be the S3 disks URL. So why? We go to the file system. So it should just be using this driver, the S3 driver. Key, secret access key, default region, bucket. We don't care about the URL or the endpoint. Okay, again, hey Napster, how's it going? Just gonna hide the screen for a second here one more time. I just want to take a look at the .env file. Make sure I'm not setting the AWS URL or anything like that by accident. I am definitely not. Let's just go like this. So we can this at the bottom here. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here again. We can ignore all these errors for now. This is just one of the linters that I have. I'm going to disable it later. But yeah, so you can see default region is just US East. The bucket is the correct bucket. Use the path style endpoint is true. That's the only AWS stuff plus the keys that I've just moved to the bottom of the file so that I don't accidentally show them and people don't run up a huge AWS bill on my behalf. So, why else would this be putting the S3 URL in? Okay, so let's take a look. So Laravel file systems S3 s3.amazon aws.com URL. Sure. Okay, that's not what we're looking for. S3 storage URL. Okay, visibility public, that might be what we're looking for. So just add that in here. It's been a while since I messed with Laravel. Don't have haven't had any recent projects require. Yeah, I honestly like I'm a huge Laravel fan, and honestly, like I don't know if I could go very long without using it. I'm actually in kind of in between job situation here right now, and I think I'm right now I would only take a Laravel job just because I've been using it so much and I love it so much. As any regular viewer of this stream can attest, I'm about as close as you can get to a Laravel fanboy without screaming it from the treetops. Okay, so file systems. What do you use as your kind of current stack? Yeah, exactly. It allows you to do so much without too much hassle. It's funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine last night when we were out for wings, just about how Laravel brings so much to the table, as far as everything from like authorization and authentication to queues to database access to storage to literally every event system, everything, right? Like all you have to do is bring your idea and just make the idea happen. It's such a wonderful thing. I love it. Okay, so I don't think setting that thing to visible is going to help, and I'm very curious as to why there are so many make searchable things here. But we will dig into that in a bit. So let's cancel it here. Let's migrate fresh. Let's add the store. I'm stuck in WordPress hell. I'm so sorry to hear that. That does not sound like any kind of fun. And let's work this queue. Pardon me. So we'll let this run, and then we'll see if setting the visibility to public. No, I don't think so. I thought I just saw an S3 URL pass by there. Yeah. Well, that is very interesting. Why would it be doing that? Why? You have to find a better CMS that I can hand over to clients. That is 100% true. I totally get that. Like if you're doing like consulting work where it's like build the app and then hand it over, yeah, WordPress. I mean, for all of its awful history, I mean, it is definitely the best CMS out there for anything that isn't like, gigantic enterprise size like your Contentfuls and stuff like that. It's so true. So why is it pulling the wrong URL? So if we, what does this signature look like? Is there, okay, so it's just the path. Nothing else in the disk that we can use. Interesting. Okay, so this guy is saying that it's an actual IAM policy. So again, I am going to hide my screen for a second. I'm just going to log into AWS for a sec. MFA for this is that. And head over to S3. Check my desktop again. And staging images. Okay, so let's take a look at our permissions here. Bucket policy. Okay, so let's edit this bucket policy. And let's just say resource that. And oops. Okay. Why is it complaining? If changes will let us unexpected. The policy contains invalid JSON. Why? It should not be invalid JSON. There's... It should just be an array. Is that not... S3 IAM allow public read. Yeah, that's what we're doing here. Staging images, staging images. Oh, okay. Apparently I missed the trailing quote. Okay. Okay, so that should be okay. So now, if we save these changes, still saying there's an error. Policy has an invalid resource. Okay, so now, if we go back here, let's try and kill this again. Add vortex. Migrate. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Vortex again. Run a queue. That's what I wanted to do. Created my own WordPress framework though, so at least nothing that isn't required to start and get. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I bash on WordPress, but I mean, honestly, like there are ways to do WordPress right, and it looks like you're doing it right. So that's all that really matters, honestly. Still pulling that back. Okay, so let's take a look at one of these objects here. We go here. And I realize this is an S3 URI, not a web URI, but we're going to pretend it's a web URI. Is this... Okay, so it is available. It's just like it's not... It's not allowing me to go back. Okay, so why? It's not a permissions thing, it doesn't seem like. There's no block public access. Storage URL statement. Okay, so let's take a look here. Statement, effect, action, resource. So we're definitely not going to do exactly what he's saying, but I'm curious if it has to do with that SID. We just remove that altogether, and we just don't care about that. Darn it. Okay, art, migrate, fresh, vortex gear. WordPress's existence is what helps me keeps getting jobs, converting companies' pages away from it. So glad it exists, but I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Honestly, like that's a totally valid thing to say as well. Like there are enough bad WordPress implementations that if you didn't want to touch it, I totally get that. I think if you can do it right, like Napster's obviously trying to do, I mean, I think there's a lot more argument for it, but I totally get why someone wouldn't ever want to touch it. The history and the legacy of it being so awful is I mean, honestly, it's kind of like old PHP, right? It's like you think back to the kind of stigma that PHP as a language has because of, you know, the PHP 5s and 4s of the world, right? Like back then, programming in PHP was not a good thing, right? I mean, you look back on how we did it, and we did it so poorly, right? We didn't have any of the common constructs of anything like that. And so when people joke about PHP now, it's like trying to shed that old stigma of like, no, like, yes, back then it was horrible and it was not great, but things have radically changed for the better. And so nowadays PHP is almost indistinct, or is totally indistinguishable from, or sorry, it's totally distinguishable from old PHP because of how different it is. And so I think there's a lot of that same mentality around WordPress, where WordPress used to be horrible and they made a ton of improvements to the CMS system that they built. And so it's much better than it used to be. However, there are the people who just, it's like old WordPress is like all they have in their head and they don't want to touch it. And that's fine, right? But I think there is an argument to be made that like it's not the same thing that it used to be. So, okay, so yeah, that guy's getting the same thing that we're getting, where it's like working sometimes and sometimes not. So take a look at the Laravel news thing, because I remember reading this article. We're not giving it full access. Okay, so create the bucket. Yeah. Object writer, block all public access, right? So we've done this already. Wait a minute. Yeah, like at the kind of small to medium sized company size, like there really isn't anything better. And even for some large companies, like WordPress is fantastic. But I know from previous job experience, like when you get into like the real enterprise level stuff, like airline level stuff, you're dealing with CMSs like Contentful and stuff. And I think there are like even plugins for WordPress that can integrate with Contentful as well. But like Contentful feels like a very much like an enterprise scale kind of thing. Nothing that you'd want to do at a small business size. Like I can only imagine how much it costs. Bite the bullet and build my own background CMS. That's where I started. Honestly, like it's worth hacking on. One of the things that I kind of try to embody on this channel specifically is just hacking on things, right? Like give it a shot and see how it goes, right? Like there's nothing that's going to, you're not going to hurt yourself by trying something out. And if it doesn't work, well, that's fine. Throw it in the garbage or don't get committed or whatever, right? But a lot of times once you start getting those creative juices flowing of like, here are the things that I want to do, it's just like I feel like it just kind of spews out of me, and in a like the best way possible, but it just like it just happens, and it's the best feeling. So I would definitely hack on that if that's something you're interested in, for sure. Okay. Okay, so let's add that SID. I don't think it's going to matter. I think this is just a randomly generated string, but whatever. And then we will also, let's just get rid of that. And so S3 star, allow principal. Yeah, I mean, this shouldn't make a difference, but Vortex Q work. Let's see how this goes. No, still doing it. What the heck is going on here? It's supposed to be object writer. Again, I don't think that's going to do anything here. File photos, no. Yeah, and this is exactly what we're doing here. So just to recap, so basically storage disk with the disk and then put it, and then we're like this guy is just returning the disk and the URL's path. So yeah, I don't understand why this is returning the S3 URLs instead of our own URLs. There's no reason why this shouldn't work, especially considering we haven't changed anything as far as configuration of the disk goes. Like it's exactly as it was 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks ago it was working just fine. It's just like something changed. And I mean, obviously they didn't actually change the API. Like it's obviously something we did, but I don't know what it could be because I don't think I've made any changes here. Yeah, like it's still doing the S3 URL, not the not just the our domain version. We go to objects. So why would that be? Like if we dig into the URL, set config prefix. Okay, let's take a look at. I want to look at the file system adapter for S3 and find out what it is setting as that config prefix. Service. What? S3. Those are all bref things. Okay, so post object. Where's the file system adapter? And that's all part of the AWS SDK, but yeah, so here's what I'm looking for. This is the adapter for the one we're using. So okay, let's try something else here. Let's go like this. Let's go into Tinker for a minute. And let's say image equals fake image. Okay. And then let's say storage. Say, yeah. File name equals sample.png. We're going to say storage. Put on S3. Whoops. Disk S3. Put file name image. Okay, and then so let's say storage disk S3 URL file name. What does it come back with here? So it's still getting the S3 bucket. So when we are configuring the file system disk, so let's go e.env. Okay, this shouldn't matter. I just want to S3. So we're always using the S3 one. Okay. Okay, so cancel out of here. Again, this shouldn't matter. Say name equals .png. Pardon me. Okay, so let's go back here now, and in our file systems, disks S3. Using the S3 driver. I've already configured the bucket. We don't need the URL or the endpoint. Close out of here for a sec. Let's go back into our so is set this config prefix. Let's just go dump. We'll see what is all in this config. Interesting. It's not actually. So I know we're using the driver here. Do we need to go? Okay, so it's not implementing a special URL. Version of the method. So it should be using this copy of the method. Why is it not dying there? Like, am I taking crazy pills? I don't feel like I am. Options, metadata fields. File exists. Directory exists. Write. Upload. Read, delete directory, create directory, set visibility. File metadata. Yeah, like none of this is stuff we care about. Public URL. Interesting. I think this will work. So then where is this prefixer, prefix path, path. Let's see what the location is. It's just getting the file name. Okay. Get object URL. Get object URL. One day I will learn how to type. Today is not that day. Okay, so this is just your S3 client interface. Turns the URL to an object identified by its bucket and key. This bucket location. Yeah, it's not going to help us. Path prefixer, somewhere we could look. Nothing in there. S3. Storage URL. Remove s3.amazonaws.com. Yeah, this is not going to help us either. Exactly. Honestly, like, so number one, I'm still getting used to Vim, NeoVim. I only started using it about 2 weeks ago, so I'm trying to teach myself NeoVim. And then I'm also just brand new to the kind of mechanical keyboard hobby. And so getting used to typing on an actual mechanical keyboard rather than like the Apple Magic Keyboard has definitely been a bit of a learning curve as well. It's like double whammy. Trying to teach myself like this new editor plus a new keyboard is just, yeah. Why NeoVim? So I don't really have a good answer. It's mostly just like I saw enough videos on YouTube really about NeoVim as a productivity increaser, and so I've basically given myself 6 months to learn it well and to really evaluate it as like kind of a side by side. But compared to like VS Code or PHP Storm or whatever. I do like the idea that you never have to leave the keyboard if you don't want. Like, of course, I'm still going to use the mouse probably a little bit, or in my case, like a trackpad, whatever. But I'm really trying to force myself to be keyboard only, just to see if that really helps my productivity. I do mostly enjoy it so far, aside from like when you run into a situation where it's like, I know how to do this in VS Code. How do I do this in NeoVim? Or can you do it in NeoVim? Some of the, like, one of the things that I've found kind of a bit frustrating, again, this is just like this is a skill issue for sure, like that I can admit, is like, I really in VS Code and PHP Storm, I really like using like the multiple cursors where you kind of in Mac it's like Control D to like select multiple copies of like the same word throughout the document, and you can just type once and it updates all of them all at the same time. I'm sure there's a way to do that in NeoVim. I have not figured it out yet. The other kind of multi-cursor thing that I do is you can, like, if you're in NeoVim, or if you're in VS Code or PHP Storm, if you click the mouse and you kind of hold, I think it's the command button, I don't even know, it's just kind of muscle memory at this point, but one of the keys, you just kind of click and you can place a cursor at each place you click so that you can add the same thing in multiple places. In NeoVim, you can kind of do that with, so like, for example, if I want to insert, let's say, I don't know, a tab in front of each of a bunch of lines. So if we go like Control V, down, 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 Shift I, and then, so it looks like there's only one cursor right now. So if I go like space, 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 but then hit enter, okay, so now I don't even know what I'm doing. So maybe I thought it was Control V, down, 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 down. Maybe I have to do like space. No, okay, I have my little shortcuts here. Hold on. Control V, Shift I. Yeah, that's what I thought. That needs to be updated. Okay, so try this one more time and then I'll leave it. But like Control V, Shift I, Tab, Enter. Oh, okay, you know what it is? Okay, I know what I'm doing wrong. Okay, so all this, Shift I, Tab, and now all of the lines, if I hit escape, are going to be tabbed, right? But that's so, to me, to my brain, that is so unintuitive, right? Like, you can't see all of the places where it's updating until you get out of visual block mode, which I'm sure I can get used to, but it's just something that I've really had to like adapt my brain to, because like in VS Code, like if I go into code here for a second and I expand that and go Shopify product, hide that. So if I go like I don't know, like, oops, not that, now I can't even remember. It's been like, just do multi-cursor, so like there and there and there and there and there. If I just hit tab, like you can see them all happening at the same time. If I recall, for multi-cursor in NeoVim, you need the Vim visual multi-plugin. Yeah, so okay, so that was something actually I saw that plugin yesterday, I think, or maybe the day before, but it looked like it was very like Vim specific, and I wasn't sure if it like was supported by NeoVim, and I used like the lazy Vim distribution, so I don't know if it's and I did not do like any research other than like I saw this thing, saw that it was very like Vim specific, and I wasn't sure if it, like, NeoVim was compatible, so I just kind of left it. But if you're saying that it should work with NeoVim, I'll dig into figuring out how to make it work with NeoVim. But yeah, like I just find like when I can see all of the cursors here at the same time, like if I'm tabbing, I can see it in real time, like how I'm affecting all of the lines rather than just like one and then hoping that I'm not making a mistake and I haven't like selected too many lines or something like that. So like it's something I'm gonna have to get used to, or just like finding the Vim multi-cursor plugin, whatever. So same, I tried Vim in the past, didn't stick with it long enough. Jumping between different systems, I need too much to care. Yeah, like, and that's the thing, is like I am not committed myself to using NeoVim forever. Like I'm very, I'm gonna say, agnostic towards it. Like if it can bring me benefits, I'll totally use it. But it's not like I'm looking for a reason to keep it. I want it, like, it needs to prove to me, I guess. It needs to prove, like, as if that's a thing, but like, I need to find actual benefit to keep using it. But I also want to give it a fair shake to say, like, if it is better and I can kind of get over that initial learning curve and it can help me, then I want to use it. But I'm not like, crossing my fingers that it's good or bad. I just kind of like a science experiment at this point. So, okay. I think that's it for comments right now. So love to jump to try Vim motions in VS Code. Yeah, so actually it's funny, like my first real introduction to Vim was I was watching some Laracast videos with Jeffrey Way, and he was talking about the Vim key bindings for VS Code. And so I tried them out. And this is like back when I didn't know anything about Vim. I was just like, oh, this kind of looks interesting. And like how he's able to jump around really quick. And then trying to like teach yourself the Vim key bindings in VS Code felt even more strange because you're so used to doing like the VS Code thing. So it's like, why am I trying to do the Vim things in VS Code? Why don't I either stick with the VS Code things in VS Code or switch to Vim itself to do Vim things, right? So I think I had that extension installed for about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, and I just got so frustrated that I'm just like, no, go away. I was a much less skilled developer back then, we'll say. I was very much a junior at that point. Okay. Yeah, these are all... These are all not helpful. And I feel like it's like, again, like this is like this issue that we're dealing with here with this stupid URL. Like, I know that it's obviously something I did. Like, I don't think Amazon changed their API in any significant way. Like, I think there would be like mass riots if they did. But it's frustrating when it's like you don't know what you changed because you haven't. I haven't been touching the URLs for weeks, and all of a sudden it just stopped. Okay, Art Tinker. Curious about is, okay, so I did, okay, so it's using the S3 bucket or the S3 file system as the default. So now we don't have to define that, so that's good. Why? We go look at this object in here. So if we say example, this is the exact one. So the S3 URI is that. The object URL, it's always something simple. 100% it is. Like, it's going to be one of these things where it's like, oh, duh, look what you did, dummy. Like, you shouldn't have done this. You changed some flag, and now this is like the root of all your problems. But it's like, I don't even know what to look for because everything should be fine, right? Like, the S3 URI is showing correct. The object URL is not showing correct. However, if we go to it and we just kind of remove the S3 blah blah blah, like, it works, right? Like, it's a fake image, whatever, so like there's not going to actually be anything there. But if we just go into here, like, all of these objects are going to have like this S3 Amazon AWS. I don't think that matters so much. Like, I would hope that the file system driver is smart enough to say, like, look, we can just parse this s3.amazonaws.com out. And again, like, we can do that too if we want to like be super explicit, but like I've used the file system driver in the past and it hasn't done this, and I don't know like what I did differently. You know what, let's go take a look at one of the other buckets where I know things work. So let's go to images.stubsquad.com, go to the permissions, and so there's no bucket policy, and like this one works. So what happens if we go to staging images? we just remove this bucket policy, and I'm going to copy and paste it for now, just so that we have a copy of it in case we need to put it back. Let's just go and delete this policy. I don't think this is going to solve our problems, but who knows? At this point, I'm willing to try anything. So if anyone in the chat has any ideas as well, feel free to shout them out. Okay, so let's go. We're going to migrate fresh, and then we are going to art store vortex gear. Yep. Art Q work. No problem. Like, I appreciate you guys just even hanging out here. This is awesome. But yeah, no, if anyone else happens to come around and see like something that I'm doing obviously wrong, like don't be afraid to smack me around a little bit. I'm very, very open to to that. Okay. Yeah, it's still okay, so that bucket policy needs to be there because otherwise it's not going to let us view the things. Okay, so we will put it back. I didn't think it was going to be the deciding factor, but okay, so now I'm curious. Really, we just want this to be get object. I'm still not convinced that this doesn't need to be like that. Star. We don't want all actions. We only want the get object. Get object version. Don't care about that. Like we don't want to give too. Like one of the other things that I'm very kind of cognizant about is the over provisioning of resources. And so what I mean by that is like a lot of people will do like an S3 star, like in giving anyone access to do anything for this bucket kind of thing. And that's not a good thing. I just had it there as like a temporary. Well, I actually want to delete all of these things. I don't care too much. Yes, that's fine. Delete. Yeah. Scroll to the bottom. Okay. What's it gonna do? I thought there was a way to empty a bucket, like to just nuke everything inside of it. I thought. That's too bad. It's only letting us delete 300 at a time, which is not nearly enough. Yeah. S3 empty bucket. Bucket name. Yes, for console. The bucket name. Oh, okay, right. So we go to the buckets and then we say staging. Yeah, okay. I thought that was something like that. Cool. That's a lot of photos that we got in there. Okay, so 7,000 images are gone, so this thing should be completely empty. And so what I'm curious about is if we go like this now, so one of the things that we do as part of the code, and I'll go back to this for a second. So what we're doing is actually, and you know what, now that I'm seeing this, there is, okay, so let's go this file name. So we're passing the file name. Okay, so we don't even want to get the thing if we already have it. So what we're that. Okay. So we are the file name is passed in from the previous job. So like kind of the parent job to this is this fetch Shopify product data. So the image name, the file, like the file name that's being passed in. So that's this the URI is actually hold on, generated image URI. Okay, so yeah, so we're MD5ing the entire path of the URL. So the reason for that is some products share an image, and so the idea is like we don't want to keep downloading the same image if we already have a copy of it. So that's why like all the URIs are just like an MD5 string and then like the file extension. So like blah 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 .jpeg or whatever. So what I did is I moved. So we're checking to see if it exists, and if it doesn't, then so like if the disk is missing this file name, then we'll go fetch it and store it in the storage. So what do I want to do? So that okay. So now, so what I'm wondering is if some of the stuff that we were just testing was like from old runs that had the wrong URI. So now if we spider this and we go Q work, let's take a look now. Yeah, like the idea is like if we uploaded the image before, like from a previous run, and the image existed and it had some kind of like wrong property assigned to it, maybe it had the wrong cached information there. So let's take a look. Fetch image from source. I think it's still wrong, but yeah, still wrong. Okay, so if we refresh this, there should only be one image there. And yeah, so here's the file name. Like this MD5 is like the MD5 of the full URL that we pulled it from, just so that's kind of our way of deduplicating. So we're not downloading the same image a bunch of times kind of thing. Now, I don't know why it's only literally downloading one image of all of these things. Like that seems very, very incorrect. So now, are there other jobs that are queued? Failed jobs. So why are these ones not running? Okay, so it's just grabbing more stuff. Okay, so photos. Yeah, it's still going to be the wrong URI. That is a lot of make searchable. And definitely seems wrong. That is a lot of scrolling. Are we on jobs here? Okay, so there's no jobs left, and apparently it only downloaded 2 photos. I mean, obviously something's going on there. So there's nothing in failed jobs. They're apparently all complete. So that something is definitely incorrect here. So let us say dump this file name. So what I want to see is it basically trying to run the same file name 10 million times or whatever, or is it just not even getting to this point? Actually, you know what? We shouldn't even have to worry about that because it should be logging, attempting to download. So why? Dump stored image. Actually, okay, let's go take a look at our log. Log, of course. Log. No, not this. Oh, dot log. Yes. Okay, so yeah, that is a lot of things happening without actually doing anything useful. Attempting to download that. So it's getting the right URL there, but it's not finding it to begin with. So let us, okay, let's cancel out of here. We're going to go rm storage logs laravel.log, and we are going to go laravel. No, we are not going to use pale. We are going to use, just close out of here for now. Close out of there for now. Actually, let's just close all this stuff, go back in. We are going to, because I'm annoying, I'm going to update all these. Okay. Don't care. What are we trying to do? We're going to fetch Shopify product data. So what I want to know is, are these image from source jobs even being dispatched? I don't think they are. Because if we go to log info, nope. This is fetching image, whatever, .uri. With job. Okay, so what I want to know is if it's even seeing that there's images attached here, because it's possible there aren't, and if not, then we might have to dig into this, the variant imaging configuration. Migrate that like that. Queue work. Just open another one here. Let's go tail F and 100 storage logs Laravel. Okay, so it is seeing that there's images with the job, but it's just not getting them. Okay, so fetch image from source. Let's take a look. Fetch Shopify product data. Yeah, so it's only doing the one instance of this fetch image from source and then never again. But if we look at the, so if we say storage logs Laravel, what do we say? Fetching image, grep, fetching image with jobs. Like there are a lot of images actually happening, but the jobs are just kind of like disappearing into the ether. So why would that be? I get the feeling it has to do with this make searchable trait. Again, I don't know why that would be the case, but if we go to product, Not searching anything there. Why are those jobs not being dispatched either? Should be unique. Wondering if that might be the case. Migrate fresh. Shopify that. You work. Okay, so it was definitely this should be unique to fetch. Now it's still going to have issues with the URL, but at least we've solved that particular issue where it was only fetching one image at a time. Okay, so that makes me happier. Our next issue is, why is it still throwing the wrong URI? And actually what I'm curious about is this actually a intermittent thing like I think it is, or is it all the time? And so I just want to let it chew through all of these jobs. Hopefully there's not too many. Let's take a look. Oh, there's 1,600 of them. Okay, well, maybe we won't watch all of them, but we'll watch a few to see if any of them show up with the correct URI. Okay, so it looks like it's actually an all the time thing, which at least gives us some confidence that whatever problem we're having is not on the Amazon side. Again, I didn't think it was, but we can definitely rule that out because at this point it's got to be a configuration issue. It's just a matter of figuring out why it thinks this. So if we say, is there, I feel like, yeah, so the options, I feel like there is an option to make it public. And again, I don't think this is going to solve our issue. Yeah, so put the file names of content and public. So if we go public, let's close out of there, migrate fresh. We're going to Shopify and spider that, but we're going to empty this to make sure again that there's no kind of queued or sorry, cached metadata with the files that we've already grabbed. Okay, so that's good. So now if we do queue work, again, I don't think this is going to solve the problem, but just to make it super clear that we want these files to be public. And then also, if we're setting the visibility of the files to public, we might be able to remove that kind of the bucket policy. And so that as we set the visibility for each file to public, we don't actually have to set the policy to public. Okay, so no. All right. Let's go in here. This can keep running, it's fine. And we will copy this and paste it there, and then we will delete it. But now if we go to the objects, what's a most recent one to make sure, so 3CF. 3CF, okay, so this one, so we should be able to click on that and get the picture. Actually, I'm going to open this in a new tab. So if we go over here, we should be able to at least we go like that. Okay, so the image actually works. So the setting each individual photo to public is the equivalent of this, but it's more secure. So I'm glad about that. We still have the issue with the URL. So I want to take a look at the images, .stubsquad.com, and we'll just go into NHL, sure, 2023. Yeah, so it's still appending the s3.amazon, but it's not returning that when we're looking up the URI. So it's got to be something else. So staging images. Did not mean to open that in a new tab. Staging images. Okay, so properties. Is there anything in here that we have to enable? I don't think so. Transfer acceleration, no. Object lock, no. Static website hosting, no. Permissions, like this should all be correct. We don't need the bucket policy. ACL. Actually, I want to remove that since we don't need to do that since we're setting the visibility on at an object level. Don't need to worry about cores right now. We will have to deal with cores once we start like actually publishing like the page, like the website stuff, so that Rapids API can show the photos on the site. But for right now, I'm more concerned with the fact that we have Cloudflare in front of this S3 bucket. And so what we want really is for all of the requests to kind of funnel through to Cloudflare because caching is free there. And so it saves us money. So I just don't understand why it's returning the incorrect path. Yeah, like if we refresh this, yeah, they're all s3.amazonaws.com. Storage. Curious, is this like actually looking up anything or can I just feed it anything? URL. Yeah, so I can just feed it anything. So this isn't even reaching out to S3. So this is an issue with the configuration of the storage. So let's exit out of here for a minute and storage. Storage. Get config. Awesome. Did not want to show that. So let's cancel this and go invalidate that key. That's annoying. Users. It should be this one. It's just security credentials, access keys, delete. Yeah, it's this one. Okay, and okay, but anyways, we'll just go back to this and then I'll set a new key in a minute here. Visibility is public, version latest, use path style endpoint. Okay, I think let's go like this. I'm pretty sure it's this setting, and I think I'm just doing something wrong here about not clearing the settings. Ugh, okay, whatever. Valid character and group name. Don't know what that is, don't care. Okay, so if we go to art, config, clear, and then we cache that, go to art tinker, whatever. Okay, so it's not using the pass style endpoint, and so if we do this now, so it's still throwing the path. Like that doesn't. Like, do we just have to define the URL? Like, and just set it as the thing? Like, it feels odd to me to have to do that. If we say, what the heck is going on here? Up from when I did this. Valid character and group name. Fantastic. Whatever. Okay, that is not what I care about. Please go away. E.env. So if we specifically say AWS URL equals yes staging images dot doc.gg, and then we go quit art config clear. Well, that was a nice waste of time. Okay, so the AWS URL is the issue. So, okay, so I'm going to do two things. I'm going to hide my desktop for a minute here. And I'm going to get a new secret key because that one has now been invalidated. So let's go access keys. Third-party service. Yep. Next. Let me copy that. All right. And so the other thing before I go away from this is I'm going to check our server with the same setting and see what it's set to. Probably not the correct thing. AWS URL equals. Okay, so staging, and it is staging dash images, correct? Staging dash images. Okay, so okay, so art. Sorry, and I know I'm not showing here. This is just because I'm showing the environment file with some other keys in here. Which I'm also going to have to replace this one now that I'm saying that out loud. Credentials. Okay, so let's say art config clear, art config cache. Okay, so the new site, or the site should have the same credentials. Now we should be able to say, I think you guys show my desktop again. Okay, so you guys should be able to see this. That's fine. I don't care if you can see the key ID, that's fine. So if we go to S3 and we look in our staging images, we are going to actually, let's empty this, make sure we're starting from scratch with everything. I'm fine with that. Permanently delete empty. Okay, so those are gone. So now if we go to our terminal and we go art, migrate fresh, art store Shopify, vortex gear, okay, art, queue work. Okay, so if all things go to plan here, we should have a database that has real URLs and not the S3 Amazon AWS host in there. Just give it some time. Beautiful. Okay, so now it's showing the correct URI. Okay. So that is good. So let's go back to Notion for a second. What do we got? So run a spider. Look at what image URI is being saved. Yeah, fix that URI. Possibly a bad AWS environment variable. Should have listened to myself. See, kids? Always listen to your gut. Okay, so what we will do is we'll let that run. It's not going to be super helpful here. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to dump the rest of this jobs table. Yep, that's fine. Whatever. Delete these. Okay, so there should be nothing left for it to do after it finishes this one. Okay, so it's done. So we can close out of there. We will go to deploy. We'll go to staging. Am I typing that wrong? No. We're going to say art, migrate fresh. Yes, I'm sure I want to run this command. And if we go into here and we just take these first three. And then if we go to this database, we look at jobs, there should be a ton in there. We look at photos, it might take a minute here, but we should start to see some photos popping up here in the next couple of minutes here as it starts chewing through those jobs, because there should be three. Oh, okay. Again, I'm going to hide this just for a second here. I just want to make sure that there's nothing. I don't think there's anything confidential on this page, but I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that the queue workers are actually running. Sites queue. Yeah, it is not running. Okay, so those should kick off in a minute here. And okay, so I will close that there and show my desktop. Okay, and so now the jobs are actually being processed. That is a lot of jobs. None failed. Okay, good. Photos are showing up there. Good. Nothing failed. That's awesome. Oh, right, but we've made logic changes, so that's not going to work. So that's annoying. We're going to have to do a commit GG. And so we're just going to say that and that. Don't worry about the tests right now. We're just going to commit this, updating logic to allow fetch image job to run more than once. We'll push that. Okay, and so if we go back to deploy, that is not helpful at all. Why are you being like this? Okay. General. Okay, so it's just finishing the deploy. Cool. Okay, so let's do this whole thing all over again. So we're going to migrate fresh. Yep. And I do not remember Laravel queue workers. Restart. Okay, so art queue start. Cool. That, so now if we do Divinity, do low free, we do low free's already in there. It's fine. And vortex gear. Now, okay, so there shouldn't be anything in there yet. Let's see if the jobs are 339, 561. Okay, yeah, so they're definitely chewing through those. So let's just make sure there's nothing that failed. Good. Okay, so 835. So this was about when the photos started showing up. Okay, so yeah, so here's a bunch of photos that are appearing. 41, 56. Okay, so Rapid, I'm not sure if you're watching this or not. As products show up now, they should be getting the correct URI. I know there was the second thing that you were mentioning about like some item had the wrong photo attached. So now that this is fixed, like the URI stuff is fixed, if you can keep an eye out for the wrong URL being or the wrong photo being attached to a specific product, if you can let me know if/when you see those, because I don't think I've solved that problem, but because we've nuked the database, that like ID that you gave me, the 921 or whatever, obviously won't be accurate. So if you can just keep an eye out for those, I would greatly appreciate it. And so with those running, I think we can add all of these sites. I can't see of a good reason not to, other than we're probably going to hit their rate limiting at some point, but I'm okay with that. So let's just dump those all in. And it can chew through those over the next, whatever, hour, 2 hours kind of thing. Pardon me. Okay, yeah, that's fine. This happens sometimes with some of these. Again, I'm not concerned about that. So fix other bugs. Okay, so we did fix that. So while that is running, I think what we're going to do is we are going to hop over to our Stub Squad stuff to do the second thing on our list, which is to build a list of users and then make them prunable. This should not take super long. Let us, how do we want to do this? I think we're going to say, we're going to create a service class that retrieves old users. Okay, we can just do a scope, create a scope to return old users. Create a command to load and then prune old users. Okay. Schedule command to run once a day. Okay, so we're actually not going to do the blade stuff first. We'll do that last because that's not the most important part. First, we got to figure out the scope. So we're gonna go into. Okay, is this still running? Okay, so cool. Close it out there, and we are going to go to Stub Squad. Not what I want. Stub Squad. Cool. And we are going to. What is this going to be? This is going to be. Actually, we're going to get a new tab. Again, annoying. We're going to go art, make, test, prune old, users, test. And so, prune old users test. So we are going to say it returns any users that are 30 days old or older and that have not verified their email. So we are going to say expect user. I was messing around with my the NeoVim completion plugin the other day, and I messed it up. So now I can't hit enter to select the right thing. I got to like tab to it, which is again just something simple that I got to go fix, but I'll work on that later. So expect user old to, let's say, to have count, and we'll make these up in a minute. We'll say there's 2 old users that we want to prune. So say user factory, say count, and we're going to say, yeah, count of 2. I'm going to make a state here called old, and then we're going to say create. And then we're also going to create some other users that are not old to make sure that this kind of gets interspersed and that these do not get included in our count. So let's go to our user factory. Well, actually, TDD, we'll run the test first. Of course, there's no old factory method. So user factory. So let's see if I can remember how to do it. Okay, we've got a bunch here. So we can just add another one here, and we'll say function. Function old is going to be a return factory. Oh my goodness. So we got to return this. We're going to return a state that is going to give us a function array of attributes, which we are going to use of none, but we're going to pass them in anyways because I'm an idiot. I'm okay with being an idiot sometimes. And then inside here, we are going to return an array. And this array is going to do 2 things. It is going to say we're going to set the created at date. It's going to be now sub days. We're going to take a random int between 30 and 10,000. And it is going to, I think it's email, is it email verified at? I'm not convinced. I'll close out here, there. Those squad local users. Email verified at. Okay, cool. Is going to be null. Cool. So if we go back to here, Default undefined method old, yeah, because we don't have that scope yet. So now let's go into our user model. To the bottom, we are going to say pub func scope old, and I believe it takes the query builder. I always get this confused. I can never remember if it's the query or the eloquent builder. And I can never remember what it returns, so we'll just do that for now. It's okay. We're going so we're going to return query where email verified at there's actually a where null. Yep, cool. And where created at is less than or equal to now sub days 30. Okay, so it's probably not going to work, but maybe we'll get lucky and I'll oh. Build asserting that actual size 0 matches expected size 2. Okay, so did we mess this up? Query where null, where created at. This is probably the wrong builder, I bet. Database. Oh. Instead of messing around, let's just go look. Laravel, local scope. Local scopes. So what does it take? Scope. Okay, so it returns a void. Oh, okay. So this is a void. Okay. Go back here. Illustrating actual size 0 matches expected size 2. Okay. So what else are we doing? So we need the Illuminate Database Eloquent Builder. Illuminate Database Eloquent Builder. Okay, so we are calling the right builder. Query where blah, blah, blah. Utilizing local scope. Okay, so we're using it correctly, I think. Okay, so why would this not be working? Scope old, builder query. Query where null. Is where null not what I think it is? Okay. Just to be safe, let's just go like this. I don't think this is going to make a difference, but okay, so if we say maybe the count needs to come after the state, I'm not sure if there's okay, so there's not an official order. So let's say users equals blah, and then let's say dd users. I just want to see what they're looking like. Okay, so email verified is null. Good. And the created at is much more than 30 days ago, so that should be fine. And expect user old get. Yeah, that should be fine. And if we say dd user old, get should return 0. Okay, so why is that empty? Scope old. This seems like it should be fine. Where created at is less than or equal to. Yes, because the created at should be. Let's just double check something. Okay, so we're creating both sets of users there, so it's not returning anything. So nothing is happening here. It's not getting anything newer or older. Why would that be? Local scope. Let's go back here for a minute. Local scopes. Okay, so taking the model, they're using this public function scope popular builder query. That's what we're doing. We need database eloquent builder. We're not using the query builder. We're using the eloquent builder. Yep. Public functions, returning void, query where, blah, blah, blah. I don't think we need to say equals null. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is why this. Created at less than or equal to that. Okay, now this should almost certainly work. We have 2. Okay, yeah. Okay. Right, that test should now pass. Okay, so now we can fetch users that are 30 days old or older and that have not verified their email. In fact, let's also make one more that is exactly user 30 days old. So factory. And so let's go old 30. Create. And we are going to say in this BD, in the user factory, we want to take in that parameter. So we'll take int days old. And so we will say use days old. Okay, so if no days old, so if, and this can, I'll actually make this days old equals null. So if there's no days old, like no one passes one, we will say days old equals random int 30 10,000. And here we can say days old. Cool. Actually, let's go like this. Cool. So now if we go back here, we can specify that there's going to be one that's specifically 30 days old. So change that to 3. So we're gonna actually, let's add a comment here. So these users be considered old. These users are not old. Cool. So returns any users that are 30 days old or older and they're not verified their email. Okay, so the next thing we want to do then is we want to prune these returned users. So is there a prune? Okay, so there is some kind of pruning thing. Okay, pruning model. Sometimes you may want to periodically delete models that are no longer needed. Okay, this is what we want. So we may add the prunable trait to the models. A prunable method which returns a query builder that resolves the models that are no longer needed. Okay, so cool. So That actually makes me very happy. So we will say it. Why is that not? Okay, so it prunes any old models, prunes all old models. It can prune all old models. Okay, so again, let's go like this. For each, I don't know why my autocomplete is not working anymore. Seems to be that kind of day. So we're gonna put that there. Okay, so we're adding that. Okay, so and then when does this actually run? After adding one of the traits and implement approval, resolves the models that are no longer needed. You may also define a pruning method on the model. Okay. And then you should schedule the model prune. Okay, cool. So we want to say this call model prune expect user old get to have count 0. Okay. So this is going to fail, obviously, because we haven't done any pruning. Too few arguments to function. Is it this.artisan? Fill the size that matches. Okay, right. Okay. So now we don't want to go to our user model and say 20. Use prunable, and of course that's not going to work. What is the path? Because my autocomplete is not working. So we'll say use illuminate database eloquent prunable. Right? Yeah, eloquent prunable. Yeah. And then we want to. I'm going to put it here. Public. What is it supposed to be? Public function prunable. Public function prunable. The builder or returns a builder. I'm going to say return static old. Now, let's see. I don't think this is going to work, but we'll see. Oh, okay, cool. So that's even better. So we now have the ability to prune old users. The last thing we need to do is add this to our schedule. So I'm not even going to test for this. We can just add this. So we're going to say kernel console. Yep. And we are going to say schedule command model prune daily. Cool. So actually now I'm curious if there is a pest PHP. So I know they have their architecture plugin, which you can test architect level stuff. So like, for example, one of our tests makes sure that we're not using like DD or dump or anything in any of our code. So it's like, it actually checks the code itself. It doesn't look like there is a is scheduled or anything. We'll check the Laravel plugin, but I don't think there's going to be one there. So Laravel, yeah, I think this just gives like happy method or methods to use kind of Laravel-y, but it doesn't actually let us test Laravel specific things. So maybe that's something I'll add as a PR or something to like allow people to check if something's been tested or sorry, been scheduled in their code. But yeah, so now if we go to our test runner. Skip those. Shouldn't be anything broken. Okay, and PHP stan. No errors. That's my favorite thing. Okay, so let's go back to Notion. So create a scope to return all users, create a command to load, then print. Okay, so I didn't really have to even do that. So that's done. Schedule command to run once a day. So the last thing we're going to do, it's not going to look fantastic, but I'm not sure. Let's just quit out of here altogether so we can maybe get some autocomplete back. Is there we have a what am I trying to do here? npm run dev. If we go into sub squad and we look in our site admin, log out, log in, that one. Admin, we should be able to go to like edit teams or season list. Yeah, so season list. So let's basically so we're gonna say art make view old users. Sure. This is, what do we say? Season list. Season list. We will just going to copy this whole thing for now. Ink that. And paste that in. Okay, it's obviously going to fail. And so we are going to first rename this to old users, and then we're also going to move it because we don't want it in there. We want it in it's not going to be a Livewire component, but it's just going to live in the Livewire anyways, because we're going to treat it kind of like a Livewire component. Fine. Okay, and so finally we want to go prune old users test. So it show and display a list of old users. Expect, and so I think we have to do like, I don't think the expectation API works on gets. So if we say get, it's not gonna, stupid autocomplete. Okay, this get admin old users assert C this user's first name. So this users equals, and then we also want to assert, we can see the last user's name. That's going to fail, obviously, because the route doesn't exist. Fine. So we'll go to our web routes. Where is our admin pages? Admin. I know they're around here somewhere. Email verify. No. Admin. Right. Right now, we're just going to go like this. And admin users. Oh, and I can't even remember how to do like a blade view. Control K. So we want blade templates, components. Attribute, blah, blah. Rendering components, no. Not exactly what I want. I think we're actually going to do this as a live wire component. So we will. Oops, that's new. What the heck is going on here? Make live wire. Cool. And now we can do. Undo that. Old users. This lack of autocomplete is going to kill me. We'll just call this old users for now, and then we'll integrate it in our our site admin layer. Old users. Cool. Yeah. Use app livewire old users. Okay. So now. Yeah, because it's not going to work. We just go to here. It should give us an error because there's using the wrong variables and stuff. Right, exactly. So we go to old users blade now. What do we want to say? Old users. And we're going to pass in users for each users as user and user name and user created at today date. I think that's what it's called. Fine. So we're going to say D7D, D4D. Okay. No. Old users found. Okay, so right now we refresh this, right? We're not passing anything in right now. So it's still going to fail. If we go to old users, we're going to say users equals user old get use app models user. Cool. No old users found. That's fine. We'll make that look prettier in a minute. If we just that either that test should at least pass. Illustrating that 302 is identical to 200. Oh, right, because we're not logged in. So let's say this acting as user equals user factory. It's just the min that we made. And Livewire as user. Method today date string doesn't exist. Okay, so what are the methods on that? Carbon. String formatting to formatted date string. To formatted date string. That one works. Cool. Test works. So now let's just go and make one of our users extremely old. So let's say I'll verify that. This guy is gonna be okay. And created at, we're gonna put him a year ago. So this guy should show up on our list here. It's gonna be really hard to see at the moment. Oh, test then. Perfect, even better. So right there, we have him as being, oh, 2023. Okay, so that's interesting. Oh, right, because I guess January 7th, 2024 is still more than 30 days ago, so that's awesome. Okay, so now if we make another guy, this guy, null, and that one should be more. We have two users who are old and they're showing up here. So that's perfect. That means that we can basically call this good, because now if we say, we just go into our command prompt here and we say, oh, make this bigger so it's easier for you guys to see. So we say art model prune. Oh, right, because they might have things attached to them. So, right. So these guys, because we've changed them, like these guys actually did have seasons attached to them. So what we'll do is we'll log out, we'll create, we'll sign up with a new username. So JT, just call this next blah, blah, blah at blah, blah, blah.com. Okay. No, we don't even need to save the password. Okay, that's fine. It's going to ask okay. So we still haven't verified the email. That's fine. We're going to log out, and if we log back in as me, this should not be showing up yet because it's not old. However, if we refresh this, so here's the one that I just created. We'll change this to 109 just to make sure that it's definitely old enough to show up on that list, and there shouldn't be anything else attached to it. So there's that one. Let's put the test user, is it this one? Let's say he did verify, so just get rid of that. 04200. Okay, so if we refresh the page, there should only be me. Okay, cool. So now if we prune, cool, pruned one record, and there should be no more old users. Okay, we are golden. I think the only thing I want to do left is just style that no old users thing a little nicer. So let's go back to here. Close that, close that. Just put that there. That there. Yank. Close that. refresh this. No old users found. Awesome. Okay, that's done. Display registration date and email verification status. We don't really need to do that because that's what this page does. Provide button to delete users one at a time. I'm not going to worry about that. I think we're going to call it a day for this. So I guess let's just recap on all the stuff that we did. So we had two things that we really wanted to do today was photos weren't saving the right URI. And then we wanted to build a list of users and make them printable on a schedule. So we ran the spider. We saw what image URIs were being were being saved. We saw that it was the s3.amazonaws.com URL. We fixed it by using the correct AWS environment variable, which is the AWS URL environment variable. There weren't any other bugs aside from the fact that the fetch images job was set to should be unique, which it shouldn't have been. I had done that as to try and solve an issue we were having with duplicate images being created by a race condition, basically, but that was not the right solution for that anyway, so that's fine. And I had already fixed it another way as well, so I'm not concerned about that. And then with Stub Squad, we created the scope to return all the old users. We created a command, or we didn't create a command. We're using the artisan command to then load and then prune those old users. We scheduled that command to run once a day, and then we created the Livewire component that shows all users, and I will integrate that with the site admin stuff later. So yeah, thank you again, everyone, for hopping on. If you haven't already, if you want to follow me on Twitch or subscribe on YouTube, the URL is youtube.com/@nexay_dev. On Twitch, it's twitch.tv/nexay. I will probably be back on Sunday, depending on a couple of things. I might go watch the big game. I don't know if I'm even allowed to say the official word on YouTube without getting copyright stricken. So I might be going to see the big game. If that's the case, then I'll probably stream on Monday afternoon instead. So again, thanks for joining me. It's been a blast, and I will see you on the next one. Coding Out Loud. Catch you later.